Shame.
This is it, old people. The video I was dreading. The one where pile of shame becomes truly shameful.
Shame.
The one which weighs down my soul with the weight of primed plastic. This is the episode where I show you my primed and unpainted collection. I had to move to the couch in my office to be able to show you everything that belongs in this group. That's how big this one is. We're in for a long one, folks. So get ready as I take you through everything. Game, storage, case, loose figures that don't have anywhere else to go. We're going to talk about all of it. We have a lot of territory to cover, so I'm going to start with the easiest stuff first. Something that already has another video about it, which is BattleTech. And quite frankly, BattleTech probably should have been in the video about things that are built but not primed, because all the BattleTech miniatures come pre-built. And if you would like to see more details about these minis in particular, then I suggest watching the unboxing that I did again, because there are so many other things that I have to show you, so this part is actually going to be one of the shortest. Next on today's chopping block are the homeless minis, the ones that don't currently fit in the bags, boxes, and storage units that I've got for all of my other minis. The first ones are Gene Stealers. These Gene Stealers came from the Assault on Blackreach box set, the 5th edition starter for Warhammer 40k, and they are still unpainted. These plastics are really old, but they feel like they're newer sculpts than what is in the boxes. And honestly, I don't know what the timeline is on Gene Stealer models. I know that a new box came out in the early 2000s, not long after this was released, because it had the different head options and multi-pose and parts and stuff. But these were the still like 3-part models, where it was the main body and then the two arm sections that stuck into the side of the body. So they're really simple. They still look pretty good, but they're definitely not the same as the newer Gene Stealers, and then I am sure that we're getting even newer Gene Stealers now with 10th edition. There was a time when 3 of these were used in my Gene Stealer Cult Kill Team, Beckett Kill Team 18, but that's not allowed anymore, so I will probably use them in a Tyrannid Hive Fleet Kill Team, but we'll talk more about that on a totally different show. Next, I've got a Lehman Russ tank. This is a 2nd edition tank. It's primed, it's ready, it's got heavy bolter sponsons and a las cannon sponson in the hull point. I built this and another tank, which you will see later because it has a storage space. And somehow I got a little bit of plastic cement on the edge of the connection for the las cannon. And so this one is stuck in position. Fortunately, it's facing forward, so at least I've got that going for me, which is nice. But yeah, it's standard Lehman Russ. 2nd edition meant that the pintle mount was usually a storm bolter, and this is all really old. Like, the accessory sprues and everything for newer tanks are very different than they are that came with this one. And I think I used them all, except for a couple of the gas cans. If I had really thought this through, I would have pulled out the bits with the gas can and everything, because it's this tank and its accessory sprue that are going to give me the shovel that I'm going to use on my Death Corps of Krieg veteran that has the trench maul. So yeah, you saw that last episode. But I didn't think of that. And so instead, you have a Lehman Russ tank and 6 Gene Stealers, just looking for a home. Next, we've got the game that I mentioned last week that I had a really good time playing, but just haven't really had a chance to play very much of, and that's Blackstone Fortress. Blackstone Fortress is really neat as an adventure game, and its rules are simple, and it really does offer a lot of options. I did get a set of miniature foam on Amazon that allows me to store all of the minis from the main game and the cards and everything here inside the box. Because they are not a sponsor of the channel, I will not mention them by name, but they're easy to find if you look on Amazon. So as you can see, we've got all the cards and some of the enemy minis over here. There's a bag with all of the tokens, a bag with all of the dice, including the specialty dice. Underneath all this foam are the board pieces that you assemble depending on the mission. So the minis in this game, like Blackstone Fortress, are really cool. We've got things like the Chaos Psyker, weighed down with metal balls and weights. Of course, we've got the Chaos Lord with the Mjolnir, Thunderhammer, and Plasma Gun, and these are the first of what became the new Chaos Marines that were released not that long ago as part of 9th edition, late 8th edition. And of course, we've got things like the Man of Iron. I primed all of these guys in a gray primer from Testers. It felt really powdery when I first did it, but now that I'm feeling these minis after they've been sitting put away for a really long time, actually there is a little bit of texture, but it is much smoother than I remember it. I think this paint might actually take contrast really well, but we will see. What's really neat about this game is that because they are game pieces and they're easy to identify, I didn't feel a strong need to finish painting them right away. But I look at things like the Trader Guard, and where is the Rogue Trader hero who I can't seem to find? Oh, here he is. Just the Rogue Trader mini himself is just really dynamic and really cool. Smoking a stogie through a cigarette holder. Really fancy sword, and some of these pieces are so small and spindly. Literally, the ones that are called the spindle drones, which are the little robots that act as like a immune system for the Blackstone Fortress. Their parts are so thin, and yet they're still really strong, dynamic, and hold up as playing pieces. Because of the variety of different minis that are a part of this game, I'm really, really looking forward to being able to get some paint on these guys. This feels like it's going to be just a lot of fun to do. It doesn't feel like a project, doesn't feel like something that I need to do for an army, but it is something that I want to take my time with, because each one of the hero models are heroes worthy of taking some time on. And even the villains, even though they could probably be painted quickly, I want to make sure that they look cool, so they're scary on the table. And so yeah, Blackstone Fortress. It's it's not done. More Blackstone Fortress minis. This is the Blackstone Fortress carrying case that was released when the game was released. At the time, I didn't know how many expansion packs there were going to be. I got all the expansion packs. Inside this are all the minis for those expansion packs. They're all primed and ready. You know what, but as I say that, I don't know if that's true. I know I got at least the first few, including the Chaos Ogren and the Chaos Commissar, which are now available just for regular old 40k, and then the Amble, which was the first one, along with the Amble's little, like, bug children. How many are there? 2? 3? I think there are 2. But I just remembered that I didn't open up all of the expansions. So my not built, not primed video should have actually had a whole bunch more minis in it. And I didn't realize that. And I'm just realizing it now. You're seeing this as it's happening. Oh boy. There are a whole box over there that I completely forgot about. So there are so many more things in my pile of shame than I realized. Before I get too caught up with that, the Amble is my favorite of these. It is so cool. It is so big, and it is a piece of Games Workshop history. The Amble was always one of those monsters. In fact, it was around when Games Workshop was still just making minis for D&D games. So to have it as part of the Blackstone Fortress game, and to have it as just a really sizable model to be able to use for specialty one-off games, like, I can't wait to do a kill team mission where they've got to take out the Amble, because the Amble's pretty tough. This is my mini case that I use primarily for D&D minis and extra minis that don't fit anywhere else. It is a Pelican style camera case or gun case, waterproof case. I mean, it's used for a lot of things. And a friend of the channel, Nelson, got this for me a couple years ago, and I have decorated it with stickers that are to my liking. So we got a lot of things on here. Many of these are available on, sticker platforms that sell stickers, Redbubble, things like that. Got it on the back too, cover everything up. But what I've gotten here are some finished minis. We're not going to worry about those, but a lot of unfinished minis. So in addition to a couple D&D minis and the crewman from the 5th edition starter box, I've also got the rest of the Tyranids from the 5th edition. Did I call it Assault on Blackreach? I did. That's not it. It was something else that I should probably look up right now. But I've got the rest of the Termagants here, and some Spore Mines that were used for that, as well as an extra Dwarf mini, an extra Cleric mini, and what was going to be the general of my Warhammer Fantasy army back when I was considering that editions and editions and editions ago. It was going to be a Dogs of War army, and I thought this mace looked really cool. Turns out that the character, this is actually representing, has this as a cannonball that failed to kill him, and he turned it into a mace that he uses to beat people with. But, you know, all of that said, in the end, still an unfinished mini sitting in this very pretty box. There are 3 complete Mordheim warbands here, and the extra parts for my Witch Hunter warband. I really love Mordheim as a game, and I'm a little bummed that I sold off the extra warbands that I had back when the game was first released. But back in 2007, when I sold that stuff off, I really didn't know how much more playing I was going to do. I was in a Games Workshop break, as I'm sure many of you have been in before if you're of a certain vintage, and eventually some of you might hit if you're younger than that. But I do still have a good amount of minis for this game, which is good because eventually I'd like to be able to teach Dan how to play, because I think he'd really get a kick out of it. So over here we've got additional figures for my Witch Hunter warband, including a Witch Hunter, an additional Witch Hunter, which was the Witch Hunter for Warhammer Fantasy right before the end of the old world. This, in addition to the other Witch Hunters I have that are not built yet, means that I could probably build 2 complete Witch Hunter warbands to a decent size and spec without much effort, which may be overkill. But like I said in the last video, I really like the Witch Hunters. I also have some extra Zealots and 2 of the 7th edition Battle Priests as well. Battle Priests of Sigmar. These are the ones that look the way they were presented in the rule book. The armor looks heavy, they still look pious, and they're just really impressive little dudes. Then I also have Luther Huss on horse. Now, Luther isn't really a character that you can use in Mordheim, but in extra expansions for Mordheim, they did add the ability to be able to ride a horse. And so this will give me the ability to have a Sigmar priest on horse. It's also just a really cool looking mini. It was state of the art for the time. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, how do they get so much detail on that? These 3, the 2 priests and the extra Witch Hunter, are actually fine cast models. And I was pretty lucky when I picked these up. I did not have the fail cast problem that so many other people had, where there were a lot of bubbles and miscasts and things like that. There was a little bit of extra resin over the Witch Hunter's boot, but when I trimmed it away, the actual form of the boot was under that resin. So it wasn't damaged by it or malformed by it, so I got really, really lucky. Here in the center is a built-out Sisters of Sigmar army. Now, I originally built this for way back in like 2003, 2004 maybe, and never finished painting it, but you can see I got a pretty good start, and I actually got a really good start on the leader. Her face is done, her hair is done, and I really got pretty far on the hammers themselves. I think they would have been counted as done by me back in the day. But I'm looking at some of the options, and I gave the seer a steel whip. I don't even know if that's legal. And I gave the sisters who are using slings hammers. And those are jury-rigged hammers, and I think you'll see in the detail shot that they're on pretty thin wire. It works, but it isn't like built out. Now that I'm a little bit older and wiser, I may actually grab some old handles off of some other swords or something else in the in my bits box and add those to the bottom, because it does pretty much look like they're hanging on to rod with this really ornate hammer on top. But I think I need to check the build out again and make sure that any of this is actually legal beyond the ones that came as built. And then over here on the far side, we've got a human mercenaries team that I finally built out like just a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago during lockdown, because I still had my Mordheim original box. It was taking up space, and so I did have to sacrifice the starter box itself. But I built everything out, broke everything down, got all the scenery put away, and we've got a human mercenary band as well as a pretty well thought out Skaven band that was what is buildable in the box without adding any extra Skaven to it. Because I didn't really want to have to buy anything to be able to build these two out. I really just wanted to be able to use them out of the box as intended. And I think I actually put together two pretty good teams. We will talk about those in a totally different show, but these are the shameful Mordheim minis. I've got a pretty good start to a Death Guard army. Now, I've shown off some of my completed Death Guard on the No Games for Old Men Instagram, which you can find down in the description. And I've used the Gellerpox Infected on this very channel as well in this battle report. But there are still a lot of things that need to be painted. And for those of you who have been playing since 8th edition, you may recognize these from the Dark Imperium box set. This is when they really redesigned the Death Guard to be super individual. There was a time before when the Death Guard were all very plain and they just kind of looked a little bloated. But now they've really come into their own, and I've got more poxwalkers that I really know what to do with. Folks, I knew this was going to be a big video, but it's taking me a really long time to shoot. Rather than have this video be like an hour and a half of me showing a whole bunch of figures that aren't done, I'm going to split it up a little bit. So this has been a lot. This has been a lot to take in. We haven't even gotten to like the cool story-driven ones yet that are like part of the lore that I created when I first started playing over 20 years ago. Oh man, is it 30 years ago now? So let's take a break here, and I'll see you next time for even more unpainted primed minis.
Shame.